As you probably know, riots and political unrest have come to many countries across the world. We've seen dictatorships in Tunisia and Egypt fall, and we're seeing unrest from Iran to Libya and many countries in between. But many probably did not realize that these uprisings were caused in part by high food prices.
Gaining access to the developing world's demand for food. The latest international survey on food prices reveals an extra 44 million people have been forced to the brink of poverty because of soaring food prices.
Once again, rising food prices are causing social unrest and political instability in several countries.
Tear gas into the crowd. Now it's still you can really feel the tear gas on the central street here in St Agnes Square. When it happened, a load of people trying to clear the area, that a lot of people turned out today, so there was a major crush when that was happening. A lot of people caught up in that. It's been quite hard to establish just what happened. We were slightly further back, and it happened very, very quickly.
The shoots, and they provoked the police with throwing stuff on them, and they make them fight back to the real protesters. And that's how the system breaks our defense lines, and they send everybody home. And we don't want to send everybody home because we want to stay here and fight. They sell our territories, our wealth, and everything we have worked.
Well, that's very interesting. We were speaking earlier today to one of the organisers from the workers' unions, the two main unions who organised the protest today, and they said the same thing, that until the end of June, until those proposals were actually passed, they want these protests to be peaceful, and so far from what we've seen, they have been relatively so. There's violence breaking out when you get those extreme groups that get involved, intercept and cause this trouble. But the groups here, the protesters, the main bulk of those, have said that they really just want to have their voices heard. They feel like democracy's been ignored. Literally millions of them are turning out onto the streets now. They've had a year of dealing with incredibly tough austerity measures. The job market's appalling, a 16% unemployment in the Greek workforce. Those are the latest.
Hello, I'm Joe Donlin.
And I'm Tracy Berry. First at 6 tonight, get ready to pay double, maybe even triple the price for fresh produce in the coming weeks. The worst freeze in 60 years has decimated crops in Mexico and the southwestern U.S.
Yeah, not only these prices skyrocketing, there is a very good chance that supplies of items like these Roma tomatoes and asparagus might not be available at any price, at least for a while.
What's going on with produce prices?
We've had a double and triple, and the consumer comes in here and looks at the price. It's a little shock to them.
Farmers throughout northern Mexico and the southwestern U.S. experienced unprecedented crop losses. Now devastation that seems so far away is impacting all of us. Roma tomatoes have more than doubled in price since Thursday. Zucchini has tripled. The situation is so dire, some stores can't honor certain advertised prices, which were ordered in newspapers long before the freeze.
And now I'm in a situation where I can't really support that ad. And I try to do the best I can as far as letting my consumer know what's going on in the market.
I've never seen this happen. I've been in the business for 25, 26 years.
The World Food Program says that civil protests like the ones in Egypt over the past couple weeks are partly driven by growing anxiety about access to food and prices. The era of food volatility seems to be rippling across the globe, and on the floor of the CME Group in Chicago, commodities traders are dealing with a continued price rise in products such as grain.
Food prices are escalating at a very large rate. We could see that actually you're going to see a lot of demand come back in.
The increase in those prices have had wide-range impact, and global demand for wheat, sugar, pork, and beef is at unprecedented levels. On this snowy hog farm in northern Illinois, producers are preparing for record-high pork prices this summer. More profit on the farm, but clearly the consumers will be paying more at the store.
Anything with wheat product, the pasta, the sugar, the baking products, milk, eggs, butter, staple type items, those are the items that are getting impacted.
The lag time from the commodities price to the grocery store is sometimes as long as 10 months. Consumers may not feel the strain immediately, but as 2011 progresses, food inflation will hit the wallets of people around.
People in Spain have been defying a government ban on demonstrations ahead of Sunday's elections. On Saturday evening, protesters in the capital's Puerta del Sol square continued to wave banners and shout slogans. Elections are being held across most of the country, and the day before is known as a day for reflection, when campaigning is banned. But gathering in their thousands, they protested against the country's politicians, who they say have failed to deal with an economic crisis that has saddled Spain with the highest levels of unemployment in the Eurozone.
Things can't go on like this. Politicians can't keep laughing at us, and they have to do something at once because people have had enough.
As these crowds would testify, the ruling Socialist Party is widely expected to suffer big losses at the polls.
Fox News alert on the world food supplies. We have been tracking this story for a few days now, and it is getting quite some attention. Food supplies getting very tight. And on the commodity markets, food prices soaring to levels never before seen. It's been gradually showing up in our supermarkets, and you're going to pay for it in your pocketbook, which could lead to social, political instability, geopolitical conflict, and irreparable environmental damage. I mean, this is something that could affect us on many levels.
Not could, will affect us. You see this, I'm holding up rice right here, because in 2008, when oil went to $147 a barrel, rice prices spiked to $25 per 100 metric tons. They're right now around 20. If we were to see that again last time, the food riots that you saw on the side of the stream a little while ago.
It could be a case of sticker shock when you go food shopping in the coming months. The USDA has cut its estimates for global harvests of key crops and then raised demand forecasts. So all this reaffirming concerns of what we already know, rising food prices.
This is the main square in Syria's third largest city, Homs. It's filled with protesters. Uploaded onto the internet, we cannot independently verify the footage, but it's said to be Monday night. News agencies are now reporting that security forces have since opened fire on these people. One human rights campaigner says a police officer addressed the crowd through a loudspeaker, asking them to leave. Then gunshots rang out. More than 5,000 people are reported to have been occupying the square, demanding the removal of President Bashar Assad. Unrest has escalated in Homs after at least a dozen people were killed overnight Sunday to Monday. Footage of funerals was uploaded onto the internet, although again it cannot be independently verified. The mourners are chanting, "The people want to overthrow the regime." A promise by embattled President Assad to lift an almost 50-year-old emergency law seems to have done little to quell anger that is bubbling up across Syria. The government is blaming ultra-conservative Islamic groups.
Of course, it is 3 months after the devastating earthquake and tsunami which rocked Japan and devastated the Fukushima region, of course, creating the nuclear disaster at the TEPCO Daiichi power plant, where we now know that 3 reactors have melted down and possibly melted through. Now, today is a very interesting day at the TEPCO headquarters in central Tokyo. Thousands of people have gathered, some in support of nuclear power, believe it or not, and thousands more who are walking the streets in organized protests, carrying signs and banners and shouting out slogans through loudspeakers against nuclear power, saying that there needs to be alternative sources of energy. And all of this, of course, in front of the TEPCO headquarters, the company responsible for the Daiichi power plant. Now, one of the reasons why this is important is that within the past week, new information has come out saying that TEPCO, at the initial phases of the disaster, lied about the amount of radiation that was coming in and tried to downplay the situation, saying that the radiation levels were not as bad, that there could possibly be a meltdown. Then, of course, this past week it was revealed that they cut those numbers in half, in fact, and that the amount of radiation was much, much larger.
The situation with the radioactive emissions has not changed in the last 3 months. Nothing has changed since the very beginning. The community is devastated. The people have no homes. There is no place to walk. Everything is destroyed.
One thing that people are worried about is the amount of radioactive water that is in the area. This is the beginning of the rainy season, and people are worried that with more rain, that radioactive water will then spill out and it's flooding the area, causing more contamination. Also, people are very angry about the children. There are schools which are contaminated as well. Right now, kids are exposed to higher levels of radiation than they ever have been in the past, and they have to stay inside in sealed buildings without the ability to play outside. It's also very hot. They have impossible conditions, and people are very angry about this. In fact, one person from the Prime Minister's cabinet has actually resigned, saying that he would not subject his own child to this and thinks it is a conflict of interest to stay with the administration, which is allowing children to subject themselves to these higher levels of radiation. Of course, our goal as an RT crew is to go into the Fukushima zone, and we're going to go in with some cleanup crews and see how that process is going right now. But from Tokyo, Sean Thomas, RT.